All right, we are live. We're back with a special live tonight regarding the Daniel Robinson case. Thank you all for joining us. We have a very, very special live tonight. And it's good to see that folks are following this case and putting it out there, sharing the information, and keeping Daniel's name alive. That's key. And tonight with me is Daniel's father, David Robinson. Daniel went missing, and thank you all for joining us. Daniel went missing on June 23rd of 2021, out in the areas of Buckeye, Arizona. He went to work one morning on that day at a specific time and wasn't seen since. Mr. David Robinson, Daniel's father, has been looking for him since June 26th. And since that time, it has been one incredible journey for Mr. David Robinson and his family. Tonight, we got an update, and I am happy to be joined by Mr. David Robinson, father of Daniel Robinson, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it tonight. So, with that said, Miss Chacha B, welcome. Lady V, welcome. Nosy Bug is in the house. Candy Cane 82. Copper Horse. Where the Wind Blows is in the house. Miss Curvy is in the house. Welcome. RJ from the Conversations Living Room is in the house. Miss Cat Eyes is in the house. Pigeon Mac is in the house. Thank you all for joining us. Hope you got the word out. I think you did. We have both RJ and Miss Justice moderating for tonight's special live, holding us down. Thank you, Miss Justice, for being here. Miss Tanya M., we were just in another chat on the Chris Thorne show covering his updates. Incredible update at that. Welcome. We have Nosy Bug in here. We've got Miss Lorraine Muhammad, Queen Lorraine, the lioness. Peace and blessings be upon you and your family. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the love and appreciation from our last live pertaining to the updates on all of the important cases that I am covering exclusively on my channel. All right. We've got Elise. Elise, it's a pleasure. I'm with John Q. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Boss Blake in blue, my brother, is in the house. And welcome. We are going to have a very dynamic conversation regarding the Daniel Robinson case. I know it's been a little bit since we've given an update. I wanted to allow Mr. David Robinson to do exactly what God has told him to do, and that is his due diligence in two portions, now three portions of looking for Daniel. One is search for Daniel, looking for Daniel, and he has shown you that minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, and now month to month. Daniel has been missing 14 months. 14. And it's incredible the amount of work Mr. David Robinson has put into searching for his son. Hence, part one, the search. Part two, his own investigation. Unlike many of the different areas to where police involvement is a major effort to finding someone that went missing, in this case, police have given up their efforts. Mr. David Robinson has picked up on those efforts independently of police to continue searching for his son and at the same time investigate the reasons why he's not getting any help. So hence he has a search for his son and an independent investigation going on simultaneously. And last but not least, the third component that makes this case absolutely extraordinary is the fact that Mr. Robinson has formed a foundation regarding his son, Daniel. And he's with us here tonight to discuss all three aspects of his case, all three components that make up his efforts to finding his son, Daniel. And I want to welcome every single one of you here tonight for this special live. I've been working diligently with my team behind the scenes to assist Mr. Robinson in his case investigation. We have corresponded both by email and by phone call. He has kept me up to date and up to speed as to everything that has evolved since his time leaving Charleston, South Carolina, his hometown, where Daniel grew up, went to school, went to college, and then head out to this place called Buckeye, Arizona, to work for a very good company as a field geologist in his specialty. And one morning on June 23rd, there was something else that had occurred. That morning changed. Columbia, I'm sorry. He went to school in Charleston, but Columbia, South Carolina, and went to school in Charleston. To get a degree in the field of geology for a young Black man is quite an honor. And to have relocated rather quickly out in Buckeye, Arizona for a company by the name of New Matrix, a company that Daniel worked for out there. And I thank you all for joining us. This is one case that we'll look at very carefully. So with that said, let me go to screen share and let's go to tonight's live update concerning the Daniel Robinson case.
My name is Daniel Robinson. I attend AC Flora, and I'm planning to major in geology at College of Charleston.
Good job.
Government officials insist that this
that BNC Live has been following from the beginning. A father continues his mission to find out what happened to his son.
Daniel Robinson vanished in the Buckeye Desert.
Daniel Robinson went missing in the Buckeye Desert.
Urgent plea from a father who has scoured the vast Arizona desert himself.
4-year-old Daniel Robinson. And this is a very, very odd mystery.
Daniel Robinson disappeared on June 23rd in the far West Valley.
His parents, David and Melissa, need our help.
I'm David Robinson, the father of geologist Daniel Cornelia Robinson.
His name, Daniel Robinson. And leading the search, not law enforcement, but Daniel's father, David.
God knows how much we can bear, you know? And at times I feel like I can't really take but so much.
Where is Daniel Robinson?
And, identify they were human leg bones.
But you know what? It's still urgent to me as a father because, you know, we found human remains out here.
David Robinson had only one thought on his mind as he drove the nearly 1,800 miles from his South Carolina home to Phoenix.
I had to find my son. I also want to thank the volunteers that come out here every weekend, volunteering their time. And, you know, without these special people behind me, I wouldn't have a search.
How does a young man vanish off the face of the earth? How does that happen? No record, no sightings, nothing. He's just gone. And when I say a young man, I'm talking about 25-year-old Daniel Robinson. He is the apple of his parents' eye. A young geologist, music lover, good looking, great grades, the works. So why can't we find Daniel? I mean, see, Grace, this is Crime Stories. And his dad, David Robinson, is using the GoFundMe money to fund his own investigation in the desperate search for his boy, his son, Daniel Robinson, 25 years old. What happened to him? How did he just disappear? David Robinson, sir, thank you so much for being with us. Tell me when you first realized your son just hadn't called in a couple of days, that he was truly missing.
Yes, my son, on the 23rd, I did get a call from my daughter. She also lives out in Phoenix.
And at times I feel like I can't really take but so much more.
But in his weakest times, David says it's the volunteers that provide him strength.
You know, everybody knows that I call them my extended family. And so this visual is the same thing. We all here have one common goal, and that's to find Daniel and also to bring light what happened to other families.
As the Robinsons' extended family light candles tonight, their collective light shines towards that day when their question is answered and Daniel comes home. Josh Sanders, 12 News.
You are my shelter from the storm. You keep me safe inside your wings. You are my comfort when life gets hard. You lead me to water to drink. And now I trust your gentle hand, even when I walking with me at the same pace.
When the light and camera turn off, I will be here. When the interest and conversation fade, I will be here. When there's no one around, a father will do anything it takes to be there for his son, to protect his family.
Daniel Robinson went missing 4 months ago. This is the last photo his family has of him. He's a 24-year-old geologist, last seen leaving his job site in Buckeye, Arizona.
As the Gabby Petito homicide case garners national attention, another young person has been missing for nearly 3 months, and his family is desperate to find him. 24-year-old Daniel Robinson, a geologist, was last seen on the morning of June 23rd, leaving his work site in the desert of Buckeye, Arizona.
David Robinson had only one thought on his mind as he drove the nearly 1,800 miles from his South Carolina home to Phoenix.
I had to find my son.
That's right. He has to find his son, and we're riding along with him to do just that. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, show your love, show your support for Mr. David Robinson joining us here tonight.
How you doing, Mr. Q?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great.
That's good. That's good. It's good to see you. I miss you.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long while.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And the chat is just, oh, they're going crazy if you can see the chat.
Yes, yes, definitely. I see some familiar names there. So thank you all for joining in.
Absolutely. Now, I know it's been a while since we got an update, and we know that you've been working out there, endlessly, tirelessly, doing all kinds of things that this case has taken you on an extraordinary journey, to find Daniel. It's extraordinary in the way that you've really put together a very strong dynamic. And when I say that, it's that you're not only working behind the scenes, you're also working on social media regarding YouTube and putting out a message to keep Daniel's name alive. And you've done extraordinary work. You've captured extraordinary search footage on your channel. And for those of you that do not know what that channel is, that's Please Help Find Daniel. It's on YouTube. Whether you're anyone has in the chat, brand new, not known this story, tonight you're going to get a very good recapture of everything Mr. Robinson has gone through since June 26th. I mean, it's been 14 months, well over a year. And tonight he's going to give you a very powerful update. So I welcome you all to tonight's special live with Mr. David Robinson. And as we spoke on the phone, Mr. Robinson, I want you to feel comfortable. This would be considered a primetime Q&A, as I've mentioned. And so you have command of my channel here tonight. So we welcome you. We love
Thanks for having me on.
we love you. We love you and family dearly for all of the work and dedication that you guys have put into with this story we've never seen. And for a parent to go out there physically from Columbia all the way out to Buckeye, Arizona to relocate to a point to where now that's where you are and you're out there doing extraordinary things. So I'm going to give you the floor. Welcome back, David Robinson, giving us an update on Daniel, and we appreciate you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Like I said, thank you for having me on. Yes, I am David Robinson. For those who may not know my son's case, of course, like John said, my son went missing on June 23rd of last year. He's a graduate of College of Charleston from school. He graduated with honors. He's a really smart, intelligent young man. Like I said, he came out to Arizona to expand his horizons. Wanted to start his career out of here in Arizona. One of the biggest part about Arizona, Daniel just love rock. So for a geologist, is an ideal place. Like I said, he landed his first job once he got out here to a company called Matrix Southwest Groundwater, as many of you know. It's also called Matrix Southwest Groundwater, also known as Matrix New World. There, they hired him on as a field geologist, which is also called a hydrogeologist. And what he do is he go out to various well sites all over Arizona, and in those well sites, he got to make sure check those well sites, the viability of those well sites. Here in Arizona, most communities when they are built, well, actually all communities that's built, they have to have 2 well sites, and those well sites have to produce at least 100 years of water by law, because this is a desert state. And if that community well do not produce that community cannot be built. So Danny's job is very important for people who may want to move into a community. And if that estimation is not correct, let's say there's some major disaster with the water system, they need a backup. And, you don't want to have to import water in. So his job is to help the consumer as well as helping families, like say, the consumer, as well as helping the state. He also checked, this company checked the viability of those wells. He's a geologist. And, like I said, they deal with rocks and things like that. So the sediments that come out of those wells, you definitely have to have those tested as well to see what type of water is coming out of the earth. But like I said, he was doing that on June 23rd. He always get assignments from his job. His job sent him out on assignments. This particular morning, he had 2 assignments that was put on his work computer. And from there, he made it to one well site. And then once he left that well site, he supposedly had been going to the second well site. The narrative I got from my family, of course, my family, I put a missing person report in once I realized Daniel was missing. But the narrative that I was found was given about my son's action that day, his what he had to do that day. He left that well site, like I said. I was told that he was meeting another guy from a company called Weber, one of the drilling companies. The people actually drill the wells and put the wells into the ground.
Right.
He met this one gentleman out there in that well, where he's supposed to be meeting him out there. And he didn't know. It was the first time going out there, the first time going to that site. So he did supposedly make a phone call to him to get those directions, text message, get those directions. And according to this worker, which is his whole narrative about my son disappearing, derived from. And that narrative is that, hey, look, this guy said my son made it there around 9 o'clock that morning to that well site. My son followed him to that well site off of Sun Valley Parkway. Once they got there to the well site, my son and he had a conversation for probably about 15 minutes before this worker said that, with the transit, I can tell you guys the details about it, through the questions. But the short story of that is that my son waved off to him and disappeared where he was never seen again. The only problem I have right now, hindsight, I wanted John Q to go through the whole timeline, but I kind of wanted to stop at this point because, like I said, those are the things that was told to me and my family from day one. We had the first officer who took the report gave me that story. I also talked to this person myself, at the well site, who was at the well site. My son saw him last, and he told me that story. But the only difference is he added a lot more to that story. But it's always been from 9 o'clock when they arrived at the well site until 9:15, where he have never seen my son again or heard from him ever again. We haven't heard from my son ever again. And hindsight now, John Q, if I could throw that in there, is, of course, I'm doing my own research since I've been here, my own investigations, since I've been here in Arizona. And one of the things had changed that timeline where that timeline is not accurate. Now, John Q, I don't know if you want me to keep going to.
Do exactly what you need to do tonight. If you have something to share on your side that you would like for me to share, according to the timeline, information that you want to provide us that's safe, according to you and your team, by all means, I'm ready.
Right. Yes. And one of the things I want to throw in real quick, just the timeline itself, and then I'm kind of going to back myself back up again. But once that, like I said, my son supposedly left that well site that morning. Of course, this for those who don't know the story. Once he left that well site, like I said, he supposedly had disappeared. This worker said my son went out farther west into that desert. When you leave that well site, you go down the same little dirt road that's pretty much a dirt road trail that leads to a T-junction. And once it got to the T-junction, instead of him making a left turn to go back to Sun Valley Parkway to the main road, the story is from this worker that he went to the right and went farther into the desert. And the only reason why he know that, he said, because my son's tracks, he followed his tracks. But I can tell you guys details about that as well, but I'm just telling the story. He followed the tracks, and the tracks pointed out that my son went out west. Of course, by that time, you guys can imagine I was already in Arizona. Like I said, I put the missing person report in. That was on June 23rd. I had to wait. Actually, I put the missing report in with Tempe Police Department. Tempe told me I needed to speak to Buckeye Police Department because my son went missing in their area. His last seen in that area of White Tank Mountains. Like I said, the next morning, I definitely wanted them to go out and search for my son, but the next morning, they told me they couldn't do it at night, so they was going to have it going out in the morning. That morning came, and again, I had to wait because they said, hey, we're going to go out there and search for him. Then they changed their mind and say, well, they can't, it's been unauthorized. His higher up said, hey, look, we're not going to be able to go out there and search for him. He's a grown man. He wanted to disappear on his own as he can. So, after hearing that, of course, as a father and a parent, and as a black man, I knew they weren't going to do anything for my son. And so I decided to, I kind of lost reality in a sense, common sense in this way, because some people say, hey, you could have flew out. I just grabbed everything I could, put in my vehicle, and started headed out west. Drove over 2,000 miles. In between that, been doing my research, talking to coworkers, to his job, as well as working with the Buckeye Police Department. But like I said, once I got here, they finally did a search almost 3 days later through what they call as a helicopter search through Phoenix Firebird. But by that time, I already made it to Arizona. My first initial thing was to try to gather all the information I can, as well as work with the Buckeye Police Department. I have started my investigation from that point. Like I said, I've been here searching for Daniel. In the meantime, I started my own searches out there with volunteers. Over 200 people at times out there that searched, doing a rescue mission for Daniel. And then lo and behold, that vehicle showed up almost 30 days after Daniel went missing.
Right.
It showed up on July the 19th, according to a rancher who found it out there on July the 19th, according to the same rancher who was out there 2 days prior, who said it wasn't there. So, of course, just finding out they had this vehicle. They didn't tell me on the 19th, but they told me on the 20th. They waited over 24 hours to tell me, though I'm on the ground. Like I said, I've been out there already searching for Daniel, doing the rescue mission and everything else. But when that vehicle showed up, that's when the narrative, that's when everything started really changing, because we had a vehicle and then we didn't have my son. Everything on his body, as I wish John I had the background I normally have, but everything on his body was lying on the ground. Supposedly, allegedly, everything on his body was lying on the ground 3 feet away from the vehicle in a pile of clothing, a pile on the ground. In that pile was his wallet in the pants pocket. Also in the vehicle was a cell phone as well as some other personal effects of his work computer. And so, that things to me was point out, foul play. Not only that, because just look at a person can look at that scene and start having suspicions. Of course, I'm a father, and the first thing I would be thinking, hey, this foul play coupled with the fact that my son would not just disappear on his own. My
Right.
son would tell his sister, he'll tell his mother, tell myself, even friends, if he had some trip plans or anything like that. We're a very close-knit family. We love each other. And it was far beyond my family and my belief that Daniel would just not go to one job site, but go to two and decide to leave life as it is on his own. No, that's just not Daniel. Just having those things in my mind as well as seeing that scene, the first thing I saw was foul play, but the Buckeye Police Department didn't see that. They saw it as the simple thing they were sticking to at the beginning. Daniel decided to go. He's a grown man. He wanted to disappear on his own. Of course, the scene, the officer did explain some of those things to me. They told me that, look, this is your son's vehicle. They gave me a picture, and they had one picture and two maps when they briefed me. This is your son's picture of his vehicle that's turned over in this ravine. They showed me on the map where it's located in conjunction with this Sun Valley Parkway out there in the desert. And he said, he started explaining the picture to me. He said, look, your vehicle, son, is found in this ravine, a 20-foot ravine. It looks flat on the picture, but actually it's 20 feet down in that ravine. And that's the exact picture there. Thank you for putting it up. That's the exact picture they gave me. Then he started describing the safety vest that's sitting out of the vehicle as well as his clothing. You couldn't really see in this picture, but he pointed out in there. So your son's clothing behind the little bush there in a pile. One thing he told me, though, he said, look, all the airbags was deployed. But the good part, how you put it, the good news is your son was not injured because we didn't see any blood in the vehicle. We believe he had his seatbelt because of the way the seatbelt locks. And also, like I said, they didn't see any blood. But then at the same breath, they say, we believe he had a severe head injury. When you have a brain injury, he said he had severe head injury and he kicked the sunroof out. And that's where some glass on the ground, he told me they kicked the sunroof out. And that's where he escaped. Because he had a head injury, the officer tried to explain to me, the detective, he shredded his clothing off. And that's because, when you have a head injury, brain injury, that causes you to shred your clothes off. And that's why his clothes was in the pile away from the vehicle. Everything. And then he asked me, say, do your son wear boxers or brief? And I looked at him and told him, hey, look, my son is a grown man. I wouldn't know what my son wear under his clothing. But he said, well, everything on his body is on the ground, as you guys can see there. From his underwear to his socks, shoes, everything on the ground. They recovered that. Of course, that was very devastating for me to hear. The only thing that I had a question at the time in my mind, I didn't say it, is that I'm a veteran. Served in Afghanistan 2 tours. I have a brain injury.
Yes.
And I never shredded my clothes, never felt like I needed to shred my clothes. And so it was really puzzling me to hear that, though I had to take the word from his word to say there was no blood found in the vehicle and my son was unhurt somehow, but still had a brain injury. Hearing all the news that they didn't think it was a foul play, the way I looked at the picture that you guys can see there, I decided to hire my own private investigator. And the reason why I hired my private investigator because I needed someone from a second opinion, but that didn't stop me from doing my own investigation. So that was 3 things going on. There was the Buckeye Police Department who told us at the time, before I hired my investigator, they told me they didn't have no leads to follow. The vehicle was found on the 19th. On the 20th, they gave me the vehicle. Tell me if I didn't get out their police station, out their compound, they would have it towed away and I had to pay storage fees. Also in the meeting 2 or 3 days after that, they told me I found out they didn't do no forensic work on the scene. and things like that. So I had to literally ask them to do fingerprinting. So after seeing all of that and hearing that, of course, along with my investigation, what I see, I'm a little biased. Of course, I'm a father. This is my son. I'm supposed to be. But, any lay person can look at the scene and see something is not right, especially, like I said, you guys, with everything that I know about my son and my child. And so being that the police department didn't want to accept that, and like I said, I had to get a second opinion as well as continue to do what I was doing in my investigation. So that never stopped me from doing my own investigation. But once my investigator came along, first thing he did, he wanted to go to the police department and get a copy, just a copy of the black box data, if they pull it. So once he got up there, he found out that he told me that they told him they're not doing an investigation. So they gave him everything. They told me they wasn't doing, they had more leads to follow. So they gave me in that meeting a partial report. And then they turned around and he said that Chief Hall told me, hey, look, after the detective finished writing the full report, they'll give me a copy, which they end up doing on a flash drive, along with all the pictures and everything else I asked for, everything they told me they gave me. And so that's what I'm saying. My investigation kept continuing on to this day. And I'm still continuing to do investigation as well as following investigation from my investigator, and also trying to get whatever information I can get from the Buckeye Police Department at the time. Now, going back a little bit, John, I want to go back to the timeline because that's one of the things I have started releasing some stuff. Of course, you guys, with my investigation, there's a lot of things I don't put in the public, and I'm taking my time to do so. I had some things I want to share last week, earlier part of this week, that some other information that I have also recovered.
Okay.
And I also didn't go with my investigation, but at the same time, I was getting legal counsel, and I was waiting until I get those answers back. But one thing I have released out to the public, as you know, Mr. Q, is that timeline. The timeline that wasn't right. I knew this for a while. It's really painful when you have to do Q&As over and over again, for instance, and you have to sit on some things that you just cannot release to the public at the time.
Right.
And
Now I know, not to cut you off. Now I know that we have the first original police report that you released to us to read, and Miss Q Carlock, you and her on her channel covered as much of that redacted report and went through line for line to line of the text messages of everything that that report consisted of. And so if there's anything that you'd like to share tonight regarding that timeline, we can share it on my side. If you're able to send it to me, then I can show it, and then you can walk us through exactly what you'd like to cover.
Right. And that's the thing. I'm waiting on legal counsel for some of that.
Okay.
But one thing I can say is, of course, as you probably, I'm not sure if you were on last week, and you see the little small, had to put something out there really small, but I'm building on from that point. And one of those things is to say that that 9 o'clock time that my son supposedly had been at the well site versus the 9:15 that he supposed to have left is an incorrect timeline. And that timeline is not based on the facts. Of course, this guy that last seen my son there, he put a timeline there from the first initial report from the officer, Cruz is his name. The first officer I talked to at the Buckeye Police Department, he did the initial report, that night. He talked to the worker at that well site that day and that night. And he put the initial report up there. The first thing the person says that happened is more fresh in their mind at the time. And so he put those times there. That's what the time that we go by now, the 9 o'clock time they arrived at the well site, and as well as the 9:15 when he left. Of course, over time, I did see some things there where one officer, of course, the same officer that allowed a young lady to upload some information, hearsay information into their police report, said 9:30, right? And so some of those things, those two things pin up against each other. But like I said, those are the initial report from the Buckeye Police Department, what this guy said, and he stuck with that story, as well as with me when I spoke to him myself. Now, what I was saying is, you guys, there you go, Mr. Q. I see some of that there. But so if I had my timeline paper with me, I can go through it with you right here. But one of the biggest things I said, you can probably see it there, John Q, is early that morning, my son did leave, supposedly, allegedly, left the first well site. And I'm still working on trying to give y'all the information about that as well. But he left I'm going to go what I have right now to give you guys. He left the well site, and he did make some phone calls. He got several phone calls from his job that he missed, and then he returned those calls. This was before he went up to that well site. And one of those messages from those workers from his job was actually to give my son the worker's phone number. And once my son received that phone number, he did try to reach out to that worker. The worker called him, and somehow they missed each other's call. But my son eventually, as soon as he missed that first call, he did ask for direction. My son, I guess, got to the point, like, let me just text. He texted, of course, asking for directions. That was a little after 8 o'clock. I don't think you see anything. I think you were saying something, Mr. Q.
Oh, no. I'm just
Okay.
looking. I'm trying to look for the live you did where you actually showed a lot of the activity that morning.
Right.
As to Daniel's whereabouts right after he left the Verado, the first well site area. So,
right.
But continue.
Yes, and one of the things is I'm trying to look for my paper as well. Miss Q. But one of the things as well is, like I said, he made a text message to get directions to that location. That was right after 8 o'clock. I don't see if I see it on there at all, but that's the second sheet I believe you have up there, Mr. Q.
Right.
That's not the first one. But he did make a text messages out to that worker, and then the worker never returned. There was no return text message to my son, according to my son's phone records. There's also was no phone call to my son, according to my phone. In other words, from that time, my son asked for directions. That worker at that well site didn't respond to him at all. There was no more calls to, I guess, once he got there to say where exactly you had, or in the case may be. But there was a big old space in between that time from that 8 o'clock, look after 8 o'clock, to a point where my son, I guess, because, I want to back up real quick too. Before my son actually called him, that's what it was. He called my son and left a voicemail. And that voicemail, I'm sure probably was a voicemail. My son didn't know that number. Of course, didn't answer it. He left a phone number. Left a voicemail. And with the voicemail from that worker was telling my son not to come up there just yet, because about some fuel truck. A fuel truck supposed to be coming or something or other. There's no fuel or something or the other. And told me, need not to come up there right then. But right after that, that's when, like I said, my son from his job, they pretty much gave the number. I'm sure my son put that in the phone, and that kind of generate the name, of the missed call. And like I said, from that time, my son reached out to him to try to get this directions from a text message. He did not get anything else back. No phone call from this guy. No nothing. No text messages from this guy. So according to that worker, though, my son arrived there at 9 o'clock and left 9:15. But my son didn't. I'm assuming, from what I understand, my son decided to try again. I tried to get in contact with this guy at 9:28. And that was well after that 9:15. But my son put a phone call out to him. Now I want to give you guys the actual length of time, but that's still on the investigation stuff, because I really want to put that together and try to figure out pretty much what could have been said or what could have not been said, because we don't have anything from text messages or when you make a phone call, of course, and they tell you how long that call was. We can't say what the person said and things like that. So I'm trying to find out a way to get certain, use that timeline and the minutes, that length of that call, to determine what possibly could have been said and things like that.
Right. Now, I did find the video that does contain the timeline.
Right.
So if you want to walk us through that portion of it, we got it up.
I see that.
Okay. So you can let me know when to stop.
I think you're already in the 7:31.
Yeah,
So
we're at
back up.
7:31 a.m. in the morning right now, and time is elapsing. And so here we have a scene of the desert, and the timeline is now unfolding.
You can pause it right there. Only thing I was saying there is to give you guys to let you know 9:28. My son did make a call out to this Ken, since I have the name there, at the well that was waiting on him. Made a call out to him. Like I said, if you guys, I think on the next screen you'll see the length of the timeline. If you pause it there, I can go through that as well. But the story is that my son left around 9:15. But that's kind of hard to say that when my son gave him a call at 9:28. Yeah, if you could pause it once we get to the bottom of that, that'd be good. Like I said, Daniel got a call from him around 7:34. My son, I'm sure, didn't know who it was because, like I said, he didn't get messages from his job around that, the 8 o'clock time when they gave him the phone number to this guy. Guy left him, gave him a call. Then Ken called Daniel. Then he called him. Then he left a voicemail. You know what I'm saying? From that point, he left a voicemail, and then like I said, he left Daniel a voicemail telling him not to come out there until I guess a certain level of time. You guys heard the voicemail. You'll hear the voicemail, and then from that point, like I said, my son at 8:10 sent that text message out to him. And the text message, I can tell you that I don't have it here, but the text message was asking for directions to that location. Right.
Right.
He didn't hear anything back from Ken. So then Daniel decided to call him again, I guess, because he didn't answer the text message. My son decided to call him. He still didn't answer that phone call. Then that's when Daniel got a missed call from Steve. Steve is a guy from Matrix. One of the workers there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then Steve, we got a missed call from Steve, and then Daniel called Steve back. Right. So it's always Daniel ended up calling back. But then after that call, like I said, a whole span passed by. Nothing back from Ken or any kind of message back and forth or whatever the case may have been. My son decided to call at 9:28. And like I said, that was a certain length of time of that conversation. And then, like I said, from there, that was it. Of course, after that point, everything turned from Matrix at 10:05. Of course, you see here it says from Steve. Steve is also a worker from Matrix. And then Steve left a text message asking Daniel is okay, that type stuff like that. Then there was a call from the Matrix workers as well. All through that, it was one of Daniel's friends from work. You guys familiar with Roger? Just pretty much text message, call, text message, see if he is okay. 11:35 missed call, same thing as well, right? In the voicemail. The problem I have with that is the story was that this guy at the well site, like I said, the 9:15 don't work with that because Dane did make that phone call inward to this guy at 9:28, and I'm sure by him not answering all of that, it still remained that I need to know where this place at. That's what I'm assuming, right?
Right. Now, now the 9:28 point is now when we hear from Ken leaving a voice message for Daniel pertaining to, I guess, his trip out there to the well site.
Well, that's actually was 7 in the morning. That's
7 in the
early.
morning. Okay,
Right.
okay. All right. So he's well informed to call him at that time, and he said something about a fuel truck. There was an issue with the fuel truck, and for him not to actually make that trip out there.
Right, exactly. And that was because Dane was still at the first well site.
Right,
And,
in Verado. Right, okay.
Right. And one of the things is that sticks out to me is two different stories I hear from the department is that the worker Ken said he did not hear about, didn't realize, I guess, Daniel was being looked for until a little later. But, you know, throughout the day, he didn't get some updates or whatever throughout the day. The other one saying, like, you know, he didn't know until about 3, and then he went out to go look for him or something like other. And also, you know, this all the whole point of, like I said, but the workers knew something was wrong, obviously, from 10:05 at least, right?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
because
I
they
would
started
say so.
calling those
I would
voicemails and
definitely
those
say so.
messages
Mhm.
says that, right? Hey, what's going on? That type deal. So that kind of puzzles me as well. So some of the things do not match as well. So I kind of stay a puzzle and I stay close to you guys. I'm still really close with this whole narrative about my son and this well site. And I'm not calling anybody a liar, but the story never did match up to me because part of my investigation as well into the story is I did outside of what Buckeye Police Department have done as I went and followed that story, meaning that the first thing I did when I had my first initial search out there for my son, I went to that well site. I got out of the vehicle. I stand at that well site and I stand there. And the one thing that was always in my mind, this guy said my son was staring off in the desert and saying things that didn't make sense and all this kind of stuff. And I stood there and I looked around much as I can. I made a full circle, standing in different spots and trying to figure out in my mind where my son would be looking at. And there's nothing that he was able to look at except for the brush. The brush in that area is very high. Is it because there's a thing called a wagon of washes there? That's when the monsoon come in, a lot of water runs through there, and so things tend to grow a lot thicker. And so in that little small area around that well site, there was nowhere to look. Outside, unless you look above those brush and you see the tips of the White Tank Mountains. So that was really nothing he could be staring off to. So I thought that was really puzzling. Later on in my investigation as well, by following his story, this guy told me personally that he stayed left of those tracks when he went go search for Daniel. He noticed it was his track because I heard two things. One said it was about to rain, then the other said it was raining. So it depends on how you read that report. It's two different stories on that. But nevertheless, I followed that story. I say as if let's say he's telling the truth about it. I followed that story. He drives a pickup truck. I do know that. I will show y'all pictures of that one day, but he drives a pickup truck. And even with a Razor, I don't know if you guys know the Razor is a desert vehicle, four-wheel one I use, four-seater. And even when you use a Razor, it's impossible to stay left of the track because the tracks is the dirt road is so narrow. It's impossible to stay left of the tracks without disturbing those tracks.
Right.
So I thought that was strange as well as the point that he says the rain washed away all the other tracks that's out there, and he knew that Daniel sets the tracks because of that.
Now,
And
do we
Right.
really know if it was raining out there that day? Was there a weather check on that date?
I checked the weather check and I put that on my channel as well. I also put it on social media, and it was zero according to the weather report. Now that was 0% chance. There's zero rain that day out there. Now I have some people that tried to challenge me on that. I even had someone put up a video in the past. Somebody said, "Hey, look, it was raining out in Buckeye that day," but this person didn't provide any timestamp or anything on that video that'll say it was actually taken that day. But I only can go by what the weather report said, and also by what the rancher was saying. Also, that lives out that way. He said, "Look, there was no significant rain, even though this time of the year is the monsoon season. I get that, but we right now here in this month here, yeah, you do get a significant rain here and there, but it was just coming into the monsoon season when Daniel went missing. So
right.
Yeah. But like I said, the weather report said zero. So I just going by what the weather report. But actually on the ground, I don't know. But I'm just going by the weather report. But even so, like I said, there's tracks. I've been out there for months searching for my son. And there's tracks that's still there from the last monsoon season that we put out there. They don't just wash away. You know what I'm saying? Much as popular belief, I guess because of the way the dirt is out there in that terrain, it don't just wash away.
Right.
And it's a lot of tracks that run through there. So I did a video, you guys, to show you all that this guy said he stayed left of those tracks. It's impossible to know which tracks is which because, like I said, those tracks remain on the ground. But if I listen to his story, I went through his whole story. He said he had to go south to get to that T junction, and then, like you said, he followed to the right, went out farther to the west of that desert. He
Correct.
came to a gate, and he went through that gate. Just that whole story he gave me.
Right.
Well, you listen to the story, and I follow it. Every word he said to me, and it all ended up leading me to that area where the vehicle is eventually going to be found, near that area. So it's a couple of things I looked at that didn't sound right to me. The point that he was telling me that, hey, look, he knew this was going to become national. The police are going to come looking, and the thing's going to blow up and become national. And so for him to see that in hindsight, was very puzzling to me as well. So that's the reason why I was really doing some, it's always the first person that the last person to start, that seen a person is the first person you should start. Not calling a man a liar. I'm just saying the first person you definitely need to look into.
Right. So what did you think about that message that Ken left 7:24, 7:28 that morning? What did you gather from that?
Well, it's two things now, and I could be honest. My first thought is, at least he's giving him information to say, hey, don't bother coming up here because the fuel truck didn't come. In other words, to me, it's like a heads up, right?
Right.
And I think he
Okay.
even used that word, heads up. I'm giving you a heads up.
Right.
And so I was taking it out as a way to say, hey, the guy's looking out for him in a certain aspect. But with everything else, that's initially when I first heard the story and things like that. When I first got the information, but when I put all the timeline together and things like that, say, wait a minute now. My son called at 9:28. That started throwing some things off. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's keeping something back because something happened between that time. Why you're making that story up on the timeline? That's what it's starting to believe to me. Like that timeline don't fit. So why you're making that timeline up? Who got you to make that timeline up, etc.? That type deal. So like I'm saying, it just don't make sense to me.
Why would Daniel call you, Ken, that is, why would Daniel call you if he's supposed to be with you?
Right, exactly. And and even if the length of time I'm not going to be able to put out right now, even if he was mistaken and he said, oh, he left around 9:30 or something, whatever, or got there around 9:30, right? The call length would say why was that type of call length and he got there at 9:30. So it still wouldn't match, to the story. So it don't make sense to me at all. And that's what puzzles me. But I have some things I really want to, and I know Mr. Q, you would like to have it here as well. But like I said, I'm still working on release some other things that probably kind of make even more sense to everything I'm talking about now. But I'm releasing those things slowly.
Right. Okay. And so when you think of the rancher's story about finding Daniel's vehicle on the 19th, what crossed your mind?
Well,
from what you now know.
What I now know, yes, it's a lot different than what I knew then. Because right then, of course, just hearing the story when I first heard it, very sincere, straightforward guy. Came to my hotel to give me the story. Talked to my investigator as well. Just swore that he would testify to what he says in court if he had to, whatever reason we brought that up. And the thing is, one of the things I took, like, hey, look, this provides some more insight about what happened to my son, what he found, with the vehicle wise. Now, what I know now versus what I know now.
Yes.
One of the biggest things to me that was really different. I'm not saying anything negative about that because I really be careful what I'm trying to put out right here. But
I understand.
One of the things that stands out to me is the fact that the vehicle was found on the 19th.
Yes.
He found it. I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't have no facts on it. Only thing I know, I was alerted about a vehicle sitting out there in Verrado Way area. The Verrado area. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Q.
Okay. Yes,
sitting
I
on
do.
the side of the road there. That
Yes,
appears
I
to be
do.
my son's vehicle. The picture is very blurred. Man says his wife took the picture. Long story. And the vehicle just vanished once I called the Buckeye Police Department to go, and I was on the way up there to see it. Vanished. They still don't tell me who told it away. Buckeye Police Department vehicles out there where the vehicle was at, passing through. And then the next day, 2 days later, it ended up the rancher said he found that vehicle, right? Found the vehicle out there in that desert. And so I'll have thoughts about that as well. But like I said, to go back to the rancher, the thing that puzzled me the most is that, of course, I already been on the ground doing searches for weeks with volunteers. We was on a rescue mission. We had searches from 6:45 in the morning and supposed to end at 10, but we out there at 4:30 in the evening, 118 degrees. trying to rescue Daniel. Right. Like I said, the vehicle showed up. Still, when the vehicle showed up, it was very devastating. But I didn't cancel my searches for that weekend. The search came, of course. I ended up in a different area near the crash site. Buckeye never took me to the crash site. Me and my daughter's coming to the searches. Never showed us, Buckeye Police Department never showed us where this vehicle was found. None of that. Chief Hall showed up.
Wow.
He showed up to that search. And that's the first time I ever met him. I already had a pending date to have this meeting with them. You know, he got a vehicle. I was introduced to him. He spoke to me, "Hey, how you doing?" And then he immediately started yelling, like grandstanding, "Hey, you know, you guys, y'all want to know where this vehicle was found?" And of course, volunteers like, "Yeah, they want to know." He said, "Y'all can follow me." And everybody's trying to go to their vehicle. He said, "No, you can walk over here." I mean, I didn't know we was that close, you know.
Right.
Me and my daughter looked at each other. We felt very disrespected because we was never shown this place. They never took us there, but he was grandstanding and had us following him there. We have video that I'm going to release here as well, Mr. Q, of Chief Hall leading us to this area. But once we got there, he was grandstanding about the cartels. He showed me a spot that Daniel's vehicle wasn't found, but he said it was there at the time. I had to accept that when he was saying it. But he was standing there grandstanding about the cartels, how the cartels are very bad in that area. I mean, you know, it kind of put in the head to me that the cartel may have done something to my son. They landed their planes on Sun Valley Parkway, dropped their drugs, that type of stuff. Just grandstanding, talking really loud. My daughter tapped me on the shoulder, said some guy wanted to speak with me. And when I went to go speak to this guy, it was the rancher. Right? That was my first time meeting him, you know. And the rancher, like I said, he was there to say, "Hey, no." He said it just like this: "I don't know why Chief Hall telling y'all the wrong spot, but the vehicle was found right here." And he pointed down this other ravine. And lo and behold, I saw the glass on the ground, and that's where it was. He said, "I know because I the one found it, blah, blah, blah," him and his wife. But what puzzled me about the whole story with that timeline is because those two people showed up, but never ever came back again to the end of the searches. So that's some things always stick in my mind. Like, why was that? Why was the first time I had to meet this chief? Is happened to be not showing my family, but to be there to point out to the volunteers and everybody that the vehicle was found.
I would think so. I would think so.
And then the rancher shows up and say, "No, make sure." And I don't know why, but he heard that. Once Chief Hall heard him say that, he turned red in the face, walked past us, got in his vehicle. He never ever seen him again out there ever. Like I said. And once the other guy showed us, the rancher showed us that, he left and never seen him again out there in the searches. So that was a particular weird Saturday after that vehicle was found. So those type things always sticks in my head, you know. So those are kind of things that I have to deal with when it comes to investigating things like that. Now, of hindsight, from that point, like I said, I met the rancher off time. You know what I'm saying? Of course, he came to my hotel, like I said, and we had the statement from him that he sworn by, basically. You know, so to what happened.
All right. So according to the police report, the rancher wasn't alone when he found Daniel's vehicle. He was with someone. And that someone, according to the report, is a person by the name of Shannon.
Right.
Okay. We don't, at that time, we didn't know who Shannon was, why they were in the vehicle tracking cattle, looking for lost cattle was the story. And my team and I did some digging, and we found out who Shannon was. We found out who Brandon was, and Caitlin, and all of them down the line. And we're connecting the dots like you wouldn't believe. And that's why we always forward that information to you, so that this way, you know, that's that information pertaining to the rancher. I've always found that strange. You know, here I find a vehicle out in the middle of the desert. Now, this is me. I call it in, get the police out there. They come out there. They look at the surrounding outline of what was found out there, the Jeep, the clothes, how things were in disarray, how the Jeep was on one side, et cetera, et cetera. And now they have to make a notification if they can. Now here you are in Columbia, South Carolina, looking for your son. You got to call them, and then now they tell you, "Oh yeah, Mr. Robinson. By the way, there was a report made by someone that was out there in the desert who made a report and stated that they found your son's Jeep."
Well, actually, I was already already in Arizona. I was already in Phoenix doing those
You were
searches.
already
Yeah,
there. Look
right,
at that. Yeah.
right.
Okay. And then you were waking up on the 23rd? On
Actually on the 20th, because the
20th.
vehicle found on
Okay.
19 on 20th.
Okay.
But that, and literally, one throw this in real quick. The rancher told me in his testimony that the Buckeye Police Department told him the first thing they did when they came on the scene, they said don't alert the family and don't alert the media about this vehicle being found. Because by that time I had it in local media, local news channels.
Right. Wow. Okay. And then he shows up that very first time you met him and never to be seen again, so to speak, because you would figure he would be just as concerned as telling you, the police that here's the vehicle. Then you would think, if there's anything I can do now that I know that you're out here trying to find your son, whom the vehicle belongs to, but never shows up afterwards.
Well, I give him to his credit. Like I said, he never came to the searches, but he did, like I said, met me at the hotel after that point to give me pictures. And the reason why he did that, he told me that Matrix, the company, he said
Right.
they wanted these pictures really bad for whatever reason. He said, "Look, me and my wife can barely eat dinner. They calling all the time, asking for these pictures." And he said before anybody get hold to him, I guess he was saying Buckeye, whoever. He
Right.
wanted me to have those pictures, so he met me in the hotel and gave me all the pictures from the scene. Because you got to imagine, remember, Buckeye only gave me one picture. The first picture that you showed here, that was the picture I released to the public and local news because that's the only picture they gave me
That
at
you
the time.
received. Right.
Right, but I
Right.
got more pictures from the rancher than I got from Buckeye, period, and even to this day. And so before Buckeye released that stuff to me from that meeting, like I said, he met me in my hotel, and he wanted me to have those pictures before somehow I guess they disappeared. So he
Right.
did that as well as telling me his side of the story, what he saw and things like that.
Right. Now, constructing this timeline based on your investigation, okay, where did this information come from? From this, you constructing the timeline? If you can share that with us.
Well, a lot of it comes from the cell phone, of course. I was able to
From the
get some
cell
people,
phone.
right,
Okay.
right, and also the phone records. Some other things, like I said, I won't be able to share. All that come from the cell phone as well as the phone records.
Right. Okay. That's understandable. Understandable. And so, with this timeline and looking at the various different parts that make up 734, 808, 810, 813, 833, 835, 928. And then you have 1005, 1044, 1135. Was there an afternoon call?
And that's what I was going to get to.
Okay. Okay.
One of the things is I didn't put there on that timeline. From that point, everything when I say from Matrix, you can say we say missed call and voicemails from Steve. From voicemail from Steve, that was 11:35.
Right.
But between that 10:44 and 11:35, there was a couple calls from Roger and text messages, of course, because he was very concerned. Everything he had to say pretty much concerned. Hey man, to send me something, whatever. Basically, also from one of the other workers, his direct boss.
Right.
Was
Now,
also
according
Right.
to your knowledge, Roger was working that day to be concerned about what happened to Daniel.
He's an office worker, so
Okay.
I'm assuming
Okay.
that Roger was at the office, right?
Okay.
And probably heard, "Hey, look, we didn't hear from Daniel." Because the thing is, I'm thinking, and this way, I understand my son's job. Like I told you guys, me and him talk for 2 hours every time.
Right.
And a lot of times when he called me when I'm in South Carolina, he's at the job site. It could be nighttime, it could be in the morning, daytime, whatever. He's at the job site, and he tell me all the time, "Look, hey, Dad, I'm gonna call you right back or something," because he had to give Matrix the water levels. The water levels, that's some kind of, I guess he had to call every so often to give them a report about where the water levels are at. So I'm
Right.
assuming that because he didn't call he supposedly had been at this job site at a certain time, that's when his workers from Matrix started calling him and to say, you know, where are you, basically. And then they probably, I'm sure from that point, alerted Ken at the well, say, hey, look, where's Daniel? And then he probably said, hey, he was blah, 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 so on, or whatever story he came, whatever he told them.
Right.
And so that's the way I'm looking at that. You know,
Okay.
look, that job did happened to have from that time that Daniel, after 10, from that 10 o'clock on, everything from the 10 o'clock on was the workers calling to see what's going on, basically, because from the text messages I have as well as the phone calls. Now I was going to throw in that last part. Then all of a sudden, I think it was around 3:15. If I had to go back and look at it, but around that 3 o'clock, 3:15 ish area to 3:30, that's when Ken called finally. So you didn't see anything from Ken from that morning to Dane's phone all the way until that 3 something in the evening.
Right. Okay. So that would cover at least from the time Ken made the statement that Daniel showed up at 9 till 3:30, give or take, that afternoon. That's 6.5 hours.
Right. But
Yeah.
you know, you got to remember as well as my timeline always too that I don't have on here. I can't put everything there on
Right.
the
Right.
thing. But
Understand.
one of the things that go with the timeline is also other parts of my investigation. And those things is the information I got from my accident reconstructionist. He's as people who don't know, I hired him on. He's an accident reconstructionist as well. And he did get some information from the infotainment system, from that vehicle. And the data that come from the black box data showed that the vehicle was first initial crash happened at 1 o'clock.
Right.
Now,
Correct.
you know, that's 4 hours after that vehicle supposedly had left, right, at 9. Now, if we were to go by that timeline, but we know that the vehicle, whatever happened, it happened at 1 o'clock that evening to
Close
Dane's
to 1
vehicle.
o'clock. Right.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you cannot forget about that part as well.
Exactly.
But it's saying that they was, you know, that type deal. So it's
Right.
all to be 1
Now,
o'clock there.
okay, so now let's go before this timeline began to show up on that day. Is there anything that you can share with us that you found pertaining to Daniel's activities the day before, anywhere in the day before, the afternoon, the evening, up until Daniel got up and left for work?
Well, I would like to.
That you know of. That you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have some information as that as well,
Okay.
but I would like to, but I haven't put those together just yet.
Okay. Okay.
So I really apologize, but I didn't get to put those together just yet.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a lot of things I would love to have out there right now.
Yeah,
Like I said
because
again,
we know that he worked for Instacart,
Instacart, right? That's right.
delivering food and made a part-time job. I think it might be, and he may have worked late that
He
night.
did. That's right. And I
Okay.
can't say that. I can't say that part there.
Okay.
According to his information that I got from the cell phone, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, he would appear. I'll just put it that way.
Appear,
He have been
correct.
working really late from his
Yeah.
cell phone, and that kind of explained to me if I used to go by that timeline at first till I knew better with this voicemail when I got the information back. Um, the thing I was thinking, like, they say, hey, he said he was tired and sleepy, whatever the case may be. And I was a little uptight at the time when I released that part that he may have been working according to some things I found out. Yeah, he could have been working that night with the Instacart, and I'm still working on Instacart. It's kind of hard to get information from them, but trying to narrow that part down. If it was actually Instacart that he was in this area, it's a certain area
Right.
that I'm really concerned about. And but definitely whatever it was, he was doing it very late that night. And
Right.
so that
Right.
would say, hey, look, if he was tired, that's the reason why he said he was tired.
Right. Anything about video surveillance cameras capturing possibly his movements from, I guess, the last reported time he was caught on camera eating at a
Waffle House.
place. Right, at the
Mhm.
Waffle House. Correct. Is there anything that came from that you can share with us?
Well, no, I have a roadblock on that part on the Waffle House. I did
Okay.
talk to people from the Waffle House who will try to get me some of the information from their main office in Georgia. So but one thing is I do know is that despite what Buckeye told me that they only got still footages, I was told they don't do still footage; they give videos.
Right.
They have a video of it. Of course, Buckeye don't want to release that to me, but they told me a lie and say they gave me the still footages of the video, and told me later once I asked for the video itself that they have only still pictures as well. But like I said, got that verified that no, they received a video.
Right.
Right. Uh-huh.
You figured if you got still pictures, you must have taken it from something, right?
From a video, right. Because the manager told me they don't give out still pictures, that type thing.
Right. Yeah, you would figure. You would think.
Right.
You would
It's,
think.
it's common
Okay.
sense. Right.
All right. So regarding this timeline that we've covered here, there's more dynamics. I mean, to me, and I'm speaking from my perspective, there's more to this timeline on a before Daniel arrived to this point that we're looking at on the timeline, and certain activities that happen after the timeline shut off, officially from Matrix, officially from Ken, the rancher, the police, and so on and so forth. And I wanted to, can I take this down?
Sure. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you were done. Okay. All right. Because I was looking at some things going back to my maps and things that, everybody knows John Q. When I start to take a look at terrain, maps, geographical areas, time, distance, let's see if I can bring it up here. And let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, there's a map there. Yes.
Okay, so let me go ahead and do this. And this was my preliminary investigation on this particular area. This is a Sonoran Desert from a bird's eye view. And Daniel's traveled from the well site 1, which is in Verrado, to get to this point. Once again, takes about how long? 45 minutes, about an hour, give or take.
From Phoenix?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 40 minutes. Yes.
Okay.
Well, the way I drive, yes.
Okay. And Daniel drives like you?
I'm sure he do.
Okay, like father, like son. I got
That's
you.
right. Yes.
All right. So, here we have, if you can see my little hand brushing on this brown balloon, this is the well site that Daniel was supposed to show up at 9 o'clock. The red balloon south of that is Daniel's Jeep location where they found it. And all of these areas we've been looking at meticulously. Let's see if I can blow it up a little bit for you. We have the 2 high-rise electrical towers south of where Daniel was working, from
Right,
the
the power
brown
grid, yeah.
balloon to the red balloon, right? Okay. We have a land area here that was undeveloped, under construction at the
Call it
time.
a quarry. We call it a quarry.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And almost less than a mile into the quarry, we have Daniel's Jeep embedded in a ravine that's about 15, 20 feet deep.
Right.
Okay. All right. We covered areas south of this and we started to find private property. There were markers here, and south of this is that corral and water tank area. Can you talk a little bit about that area pertaining to your search as to what you found?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is, like you said, that is south. That ravine that vehicle was found in, goes north to south, and water travels through there. Of course, his cattle travel through there, and that's the way. Was you pointing at there? That's part of the Hot River, but that's a wagon of wash that runs that way as well.
Okay.
Down that, but like I said, that wash do dump off somewhere down there with towards the wagon of wash, which end up turning, like I said, to the Hot River, dumping into Hot River. But on the south of that, what you was pointing at, where the vehicle was found, of course, that is a couple of things there. One of my first searches out there in that area, we would look for the mountain lion den, what we call den. Buckeye said, "Hey, look, there's a mountain lion den in that area. Don't go there for whatever reason." That was south. And of course, when they tell me something like that, I'm a father. That's where I'm going. Okay, you say that, that's where I'm really going. Well, that's the area we later found out that's supposed to be we call it Pride Rock. So that's what you're pointing at there.
Okay.
But in the past, we thought it was near where the like the corral is there. And like I said, there's a mine sitting there. There's a horizontal mine there next to the corral. So the first thing we did a search in that mine that's south. That's, like I said, it's more east of that corral, and right next to it, but east of it. And we went in there and get that cleared out of there. Make sure Daniel wasn't in there somehow. And also, of course, we had to take our time because we thought it was a mountain lion den, or the mountain lion was using that as a den. And then also a second thing that's in there south, before you get to that corral, there's a well. We thought at the time was a well, the same well, same place that Buckeye did that I called a photo op that says that was months after my son's vehicle was found, that they put in the public for y'all consumption, to say, "Hey, I'm out here checking this well," and that's what they call it, a well, but actually it's a mine. Of course, you already know about it. We found later it's a mine. At the time, we thought it was a well as well, but we tried to look into it as well. But that is there, and like you said, and there's a corral there. The corral itself has like I say, a big water tank. We searched that tank as well,
Okay.
to make sure there's nothing there.
Okay. And so there was a well that was covered by a tire that you had
Right.
also found. Was there any new developments about that particular well location regarding your search that you can share with us?
I can, yes, but I don't have any findings in there because I didn't get it searched like I wanted
Okay.
to.
Okay.
That got shut down because of BLM. It was on the side of BLM land, and well, I found that I had to get permission. The company said they had to get permission from BLM to go down and look into that mine. It was actually a mine that the tire was covering, and so yeah, it's not a well, it's a mine. And
Okay.
so we had to get permission to, and because of some other things that happened with that, um, the location of the crash site is on federal land. I put some information out there. One of my teams went out there. I gave her the wrong coordinates, I believe, and of course BLM came back quickly and said, "Hey, no, your son's vehicle not on that vehicle's not on federal land."
Right.
But they
Right.
gave me a map with their markings where their land ends and begins. And when they did that, it showed clearly that his vehicle was on the land. I went out there personally to make sure I get those coordinates exactly correct from the spot where my son's vehicle is. And lo and behold, it was on federal land. So once I get them, feed the information back to them, they realized that, then BLM shut down and say, "Hey, we no longer have a discussion with you. You have to go through law enforcement or your attorney." And so from
Right.
that point, of course, I have no real dialogue with BLM to be able to get that permission to go on those mines. So
Oh,
that's why I'm
okay.
kind of stuck, stuck right now.
Right. Okay. So has your attorney acquired any of the maps of this area pertaining to BLM and private land ownership?
No,
Uh,
not at all. Not at all. I didn't ask for that.
okay. 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 Because to take a look at certain things in this area, because from the research that we did, and shout out to Miss Yunu and Brother Renegade and Miss Sophia working behind the scenes with me. We came across some interesting information pertaining to Daniel's vehicle being between private property and federal land property. And I think I sent that to you. And
Right.
hence, we spoke about that on the phone. Were you able to find out if Daniel's vehicle was more on federal property than
Yeah,
private
that
property?
was describing it to you. Yes, it's
Oh, okay.
definitely on federal land. Right.
Okay, definitely on federal land.
Right.
Okay, so you might be cutting. It may be a very close hair, if you will, because it was just so exact um, to gather or gain their attention because it was so close to BLM land. They could possibly be looking at this um, in a way to say, let's see what else you find out regarding your investigation before we may take a step into speaking with you based upon what you've been able to find. Now, according to that BLM land, that federal land, have you guys found uh, body bones, remnants of human remains out on BLM land, if you will?
And that right there is because the skull is close to that area where Daniel's vehicles found, but I think that was
Right.
on the private side of the land. But there were some things near the Wagon and Wash. You can see that go up there, the Hossalpa River as well, and some of those areas are federal side of that land. And I can't remember exactly, because we found scattered bones in different places,
Right.
and I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly, but I can tell you on federal land, we do find things like burnt down cars and, you name it. So we do find things like that out there.
Right. Okay. So now there was a point that I guess, if I'm remembering correctly, that you had a north point from where Daniel's car was found, a north point searched near the aqueduct
Right.
area. Could you share with us anything that came from that?
Well, like I said, the only thing that was in that area that we found where you just point at was significant was a vehicle. Wait a minute. Well, I take that back because you kind of too far down. It's a lot farther up north. You down near between that power station and the well site. I see, and when I'm saying north of that well site, up the Hossalpa River, there off the river banks there. Of course, we found a red vehicle. Of course, a red pickup truck. And the first thing I'm thinking about is that red transfer paint, of course. Believe it or not, that vehicle was flawless. The paint job was flawless. And when I say flawless, for it to be in the desert, I'm like looking at like, man, that's impossible. But it's flawless. We did call it was on Maricopa County side. We did call them out and give them the tag number and the VIN number. Sorry, and the vehicle was stolen. They were looking for that vehicle. It was stolen. The person who owned it was able to retrieve that. But it was stolen. It was sitting on the side of the road. It had a Maricopa County sticker on it. Somebody stole it from that point and took it out into the desert. And one of the things is also my recent search, my last desert search I had recently. We did have people to check that aqueducts, what you were saying. And one of the biggest things I needed them to do when they rolled up and down the aqueducts is to look for any breakage in the fence line. Now, one thing I did get a report on the northern side of that aqueducts is that the fencing seemed fairly, like, really new. So what bothers me with that is that I could have waited too late for that certain area, and that fence could have had a break in it, and they repaired it, just putting up new fencing or something. But yes, they definitely had some of that done.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, because according to the sector map that you have on the website, see if I can find what I'm looking for here. Oh, 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 okay. I got to take that down. and bring up your site, which is here. And thank you everyone for joining us for tonight's special live with Mr. David Robinson, father of Daniel Robinson. And I know that we were on a timetable. Yep. And so I don't know if we can go through this. How much time do you have, David?
Oh, actually, I had to 7 o'clock, but yes, I'll give about 5-10 more minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes is good. Always good. 5 minutes. All right. So, according to the sector map that you have for Daniel on the website, could you explain a little bit about the colors that are outlined on the website here to let us know search activities for Daniel? And then, I guess we can wrap it up, and we can always come back once again to do another update according to your time schedule.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we kind of break everything down by the color codes, and that's because we search some things that's done by we're doing hasty search, the line searches, and also we utilize things like ATVs and UTVs, and so therefore we had to put everything in those color coordinated ways, so that way we can keep track of what we're doing. For instance, like the orange you have there would be that definitely is a search area as well, but the orange part is like the desired search area, the areas that we kind of say, hey, so if I continue my searches on, we have to cover those areas. That's what our desire is to get to. And the problem with those areas a lot of times is the logistics part. And so we kind of mark those and say, hey, look, logistically, we've been finding it kind of hard to get volunteers in those areas to do line searches. So that's what we really want to try to get done. Now, the green sections, for instance, is definitely the foot searches that we have already covered. We have some foot searches. Foot searches don't necessarily mean that they were line searches, but we have people out there more like in line searches and stuff like that was covering those areas. The blue sections is called hasty search. That definitely is not a line search. That's when people pretty much are doing things like hiking, in a sense. Hey, you just walk out there, walk and cover these areas, and then from that point you say, hey, if you see something, that type deal, saying we definitely can go back and do that. Also the red we have there also is the desire is also okay. That's the search that we did this year. Again, because some things we had to go back over twice.
Right.
And I think that area was really concerned more so because of the development that was coming up in that area. And some of those things we had to really, really search really hard. So we kind of coordinated in colors and things like that to try to keep us so we can remember areas that we searched, first of all, and also, like I said, the desired search. And that desired search, if you ever noticed that when you watched it, you went out there the first time, you kind of pointed at Pride Rock. That's on the other side of the Hansiyapa River. And the problem, like I said, is always logistics, because we don't have enough UTVs, ATVs. Those vehicles are very expensive, first of all. And then, we needed the 4-seaters and things like that to get people across that river. The river's dry, so we say river, sometimes people think water's running. It's dry most of the year. This time of the year, because the monsoon season, I'm sure it's flowing, because the last search I had, I literally had to turn around. I was going up the Hansiyapa River and looking for some volunteers, and I felt really worried. Sent some volunteers up the Hansiyapa River with their 4x4s and Jeeps and stuff to go search the aqueducts up there. And all of a sudden, that river started flowing. It started flowing, started off small. I got up there trying to go chase them down, tell them I know the water's starting to flow, and try to go get those volunteers back to the command center. And I had to turn around because the water cut me off and started filling up kind of rapidly, so I had to get out that riverbed. But those volunteers, thank God, was able to take a different direction to get back to the command center. So, but what I'm saying is, during that time of the year, when Daniel went missing, all that stuff was dry, and it's most of the years is dry. So most of our searchers going across that the Hansiyapa River,
right?
But vehicles can't get over across there. You got to have specialized vehicles like UTVs, ATVs, 4x4 type vehicle. So since that we don't have enough of those, we was unable to get those things searched by foot. We use vehicles, like I said, ATV, UTVs, but it's never in-depth searches. You can end up missing something, but when you're on the ground, actually walking and looking, you find things.
Right. Okay. If there are any questions for Mr. Robinson in closing, because he does have another appointment and we're time sensitive, as I stated before.
I'll be back.
I always say that too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for joining us. Mr. Robinson has taken some time out tonight to give us a case update on his son, Daniel Robinson, age 25, field geologist that went missing out of Buckeye, Arizona on the 23rd of June of last year, 8 days after Summer Wells went missing. So if you have any questions, put a big Q and write it in caps.
I was about
As
to say
Mr.
that.
Robinson says, write it in caps so he can see it. And he's got a couple of minutes to spend trying to answer any questions that come up. And I thank
One
you.
thing I want to put out real quick though, before they do that, is I see double rainbows. Thank you so much for helping. I see you putting so much out there, and I really appreciate it. But one thing I want to mention is that the Q&A is not every morning. I used to do it every morning, but I broke it down to only on Wednesdays, Wednesday morning, and then I have a Q&A on the evening time called prime time. And the reason why I only started breaking it down to one day, because I've been overwhelmed with things. If you guys can almost imagine my entire day, it's always filled with things, and I barely have time to even get to sleep much. So, so my team convinced me, to make a long story short, to be able to put it down to one day. It was wise for me to do so. So it's one day Q&A, but it's on Wednesdays. Like I said, Wednesday morning at 6:30 a.m. Arizona time. That's 9:30 a.m. On the East Coast, and then as well as 5:30 p.m. Here in Arizona, and that's 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast. So I just want to make sure she aware of that, if people aware of that part there. But like Mr. Q said, if you have any questions, yes, by all means, put that capital letter Q, some question mark there. I can find it. I see Shiro's Nation is here as well. She's there constantly, and I really appreciate your support as well. Also coming to the ambassador program Zoom meeting. So I really appreciate everything you do too as well. Oh, and shout out, if I can, Ms. Q, shout out to my team members as well as board member Sophia. Got it so fresh, smells. Thank you for being here as well.
About to say, you got to get that team in there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
But I do see Leanne Ferguson. I think she have a question.
Yeah, Leanne has got a question. Let's see if I can find what Leanne is doing. Thank you so much. And shout out to Miss Q.
I didn't see her. Where is she?
No, I mean, I didn't see her in the chat and whatnot, but shout out to her covering the police reports and the dynamics of the paperwork that you and her went through on an extraordinary live that she captured. And for those of you that don't know what the dynamics of the police report is, just go to Keyz channel because she does an excellent insight interview with Mr. Robinson pertaining to the police reports. So I am looking for in your, okay, there we go. New Bug says, in your mind, do you feel like you know who had hands in on your son's disappearance?
Yes. Well, I can't say, yeah, I have my suspicions. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. One thing I want to say real quick, thank you, Bossman Blake, to be here as well, because I remember you as well. Thank you. But yes, I definitely have my theories and thoughts on that based on information I do know. I'll put it that way.
Yes, very good. And the guy who's always got questions is Mr. Bossman Blake. He can ask some very sharp, deep questions about certain things, but he understands the delicacy of an open investigation, number one, and would rather have a direct conversation with you to ask those particular questions I know he would ask. So my brother's
Right.
always got the questions that always made me think. So
That's right.
thank you for your question, Nosy Bug. Any other questions? Time is running. Come
I say
on now.
Leanne Ferguson, she have a question that has you cleared the girl? And I'm assuming she referring to the young lady my son spent the night with. Caitlin, right?
Yeah.
And no, I have not cleared I have not cleared anyone. And you know, for me, everybody involved are in my book suspect. You know, until proven otherwise. So, long story short, no. Me personally, no, I haven't cleared anybody.
Right. And once again, if you have a question, please put it in caps.
Thank you, 18.
So Mr. Robinson can see that you're asking a question. And yes, much love goes out to Miss Q.
Yes.
Covering the dynamics of the police report, which I think she did an excellent job.
Yeah, she brings some awareness to the fact that, you know, the report that she had at the time versus the initial report, the very first report from the police department, the one that they actually told me is that was it against those two different reports. I mean, when I say different, they was the same, but there was a lot of changes because she was reading down from that report that she had, as well the one that I have from this unredacted report that I have from the Buckeye Police Department. You can see where they changed paragraphs and sentences and just to fit their narrative. So those things definitely was on when she did that, helped me out as well.
Right. Is there anything we can still do to help?
Well, you know, the biggest part for me is definitely to get awareness out there. That's the reason why I'm doing everything I can, as you mentioned at the beginning.
Okay.
Have the YouTube channel, as well as still getting those flyers out. People can go to Please Help Find Daniel. There's PDF there, as well as you know, people being able to join the ambassador program if they come out on Thursdays to meet me at 5:00 p.m. It's right there on the pleasehelpfinddaniel.com front page. You can join the Zoom with me every Thursday at 5 p.m. Arizona time. That's 8:30. 5 o'clock p.m. Arizona time, 8 o'clock p.m. Arizona time. Like I said, on Thursdays. Also, people can sign a petition still. I still have a petition. We will be doing some things where that petition will be utilized to help, because you guys have given me that backing as well. Also, one of the main things for me as well is funding. I need funding, you know, so to remain in Arizona, to keep the fight up, you know, so to be able to do all the things I was asking at the beginning, to remain here, and things like that. So that'll really help out as well. But like I said, it's spreading the word, keep spreading Daniel's name out there, because one of the biggest part that's problematic if people let that story die. You know what I'm saying? If I let my story die, then that's what they want. That's exactly what happened. It'll die. Nobody would, know about it. That person that may have known something that can give me, instead of me going out and trying to put something through the investigation there, this person come out directly and say, hey, it's time for me to talk, or whatever the case may be, and put that story out there. As long as people keep putting that story out there, that really helped me reach certain people who may want to say something. One last thing, I know I'm throwing out a lot, Ms. Q, is that because I became passionate and want to help other families as well, I do have a team. We had, as you remember, we had a candlelit visual in honor of my son. There's also been bringing awareness to other people's cases, other families who've been going through the same thing, me and my family. Also, just being able, like yourself, like you're doing, you, Ms. Q, everybody's doing to help other families. My desire is to help other families. My team desires to help other families. We have the Daniel Robinson Foundation, So you guys can look out for that for the launch date of that. As well, on September the 10th, I need you guys to come out and support. If you're here in Arizona, and if you're not, September 10th is a good time away. If you can make some plans to come out to support, we'll love you to come out because we have families there sharing my family as well, my son's story as well. Out there sharing their loved one's story. We have resources out there for those families. So we ask you guys to come out and support the families, support us. And if you're a person yourself have a missing loved one, you can come out and highlight your loved one's story as well, and share your story with us. Come out and get those resources that's going to be out there, as well as make sure that you're out there to help your loved one as well. I just want to make sure people get that resources out there that's going to be there the day of remembrance. So just if you guys want to be a part of it, go to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com on the events tab. On the events tab, the Eventbrite will come up, and we ask you to RSVP if you can, so we can know how many people actually coming. Even if you didn't, just please show up if you can. And those families who want to be a part of the Please Help the Day of Remembrance, they can also hit us up. Saying to reserve your spot, hit us up at pleasehelpfinddaniel@yahoo.com. And that's pleasehelpfinddaniel@yahoo.com, and we can help you make sure you reserve your spot there at a Day of Remembrance. So a lot of things like that is happening right now.
Right. I mean, you've got not a plate full, but a table full, right about now. And for the folks that have joined us for tonight's special live, I want to thank you. And I know David does, because keeping vigilant awareness on Daniel's case is extremely important. Extremely important. And I want to thank you, David.
Really, thank you
for cutting this time out. I've been chasing you a little bit, but
Yes.
we try to stay on time with everything that we got going. And for the most part, every effort that you've put out to build your knowledge base based on search efforts, private investigations, and then getting the word out about a foundation is incredible work. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows this is not easy to do alone. And you're pulling it together, and you're a model for, I hope not, anyone that may be looking for their child in the way that you are. But
Right.
yet,
I appreciate that.
with a foundation that's out there to help those families, that's incredible for you to have that as a connecting piece because of the love that you have for Daniel.
That's right.
Incredible. Absolutely.
One thing I want to say too is, if you don't mind,
Yes.
I have an event that I'm really working hard on. It's coming hopefully later this year. I don't have a date, so I'm not gonna put a date out there. That's one thing I'm trying to put together in the background as well. It's a Million Father March or Walk. But I will have those information out there as soon as I can. But I want to put that together for fathers who want to come out and join me, and other fathers who want to take a stand for your children and for your family. And I would like to see that here in Phoenix. And so whenever I get those things together, y'all be aware to look out for that as well this year. So that'll be coming out the Day of Remembrance. So I just want to put that out, to start putting that out now, so we start promoting that as well.
Right. And to close up and to wrap things up, David, thank you so much for the update. I know you're coming back, because this is a part of your home here, as well as Miss Q, as well as what you're doing on your channel, the Grizzlies, the extraordinary work that Gisella's doing on her channel to provide help, assistance, support. I love it. I love what you've been able to put together in a short period of time.
Yeah, and I really appreciate everything you guys have been doing for me. You're one of the first people who actually have gave me a platform to be able to share Daniel's story. So I really appreciate that, as well as all the other stuff, like you were saying, as well, in the background, working together with you in the background, get some of those details about the case. So really appreciate that. You and the team. Tisa Field.
Yeah, there's
I want
a
to mention
team.
everybody, but, you know, everybody, the whole gang. I'll just put it that way.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for tonight's special live. Mr. David Robinson, the father of Daniel Robinson, 25 years old, went missing in Buckeye, Arizona on June 23rd, 2021. We're still here. We're still working. We're hoping and praying that David finds Daniel, bring him home, so that there can be a proper memorial remembrance service to put some kind of closure to this before the real battle, I believe, begins.
Yes, and that's coming soon because I'm doing some work as well.
Yes.
In the background, right.
Yes. So much love to you, David, and family. Hit me up on a phone call. Hit me up with a text. I know you do. Keep me posted, as you've always done. And whenever you're available for an update, this is your house here too.
I appreciate that. I already know that. You did it many times before. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that said, y'all say goodbye to Mr. David Robinson. Show him the love, Daniel's support. Please help find DanielRobinson.com. Sign the petition. Be a part of the search. Connect with him to be a part of this case. He's made it very easy, extremely easy. And all you have to do is just give a holler. And I'm sure that he'll accommodate you in the right direction because he needs the help. And we stand here in full support of every effort that you've done. Now, I came on in November to cover your case. In fact, November 24th of last year, along with Miss Q. And we both stand behind you, Mr. Boss Blake. And the team that we're associated with stands behind you, the family, and this story. We're going to keep it alive, and we're here to help you find Daniel.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So final words, David, before we disconnect.
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody thank you, like Mr. Q said here, for coming out and just hearing the story. Your support, your love. I see all the hearts. I see all the wonderful comments. So I really appreciate it. That's what always got me through. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, I'm going to say this real quick too. When I was a kid, pastors always say sometimes you have to encourage yourself. But it's always good when I hear people like yourself giving all those encouragements when I read these chats and stuff like that. So that helps out a whole lot. It's not easy for any family. Like I said, it's not, unique for my family. So I want you guys to always remember there's other families as well that don't even have a voice. So make sure, you guys think about them as well. So, and know they need that support as well, because it's not easy. Nobody just you wake up one day, you have all your children or a loved one, and then the next day, you could be out there searching. So it's hard, very hard, but people like yourself, help us get through it. So thank you so much.
Right. You're welcome. And with that said, we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We will be back on Sunday for a special table talk. Can't tell you who it is yet, but it will be posted later on tonight. So with that said, be well, David. And
yes, sir.
family.
Thank you.
And stay blessed with God's speed. And I say that to my chat. Thank you to all the moderators that supported tonight's live. Much love to you all in support of the story that we are carrying. And up until then, we'll see you next time on John Q. Q the Truth.